TilBuci features a tool that simplifies the creation of dialogue between characters, using a structure similar to the one found in traditional RPGs and visual novels. In this video, we'll learn a little about how this feature works, and also learn techniques for managing large volumes of text and multilingual productions. As an example, let's create a short dialogue between characters from a story called The City of Those Who Descend the Stairs in 2 languages, English and Portuguese. To begin, let's check out the outcome we want to achieve.
Hold on tight. The waves are getting bigger. Did you see the 3rd subsyndic?
Who?
Well, Igor, the man who can get us off this floor of the tower in the middle of the street. Seriously, Igor, don't you remember him?
Of course. I'm just kidding.
Only you would be making jokes at this point. Look at him over there. Let's try to get there. Segurem firme. As ondas estão aumentando. Você conseguiu ver o 3º subsíndico?
Quem?
Ora, Igor, o homem que pode nos tirar deste andar da torre do meio da rua. Sério, Igor, você não se lembra dele.
Claro, só estou brincando.
Só você mesmo para fazer piada nesta hora. Olha ele ali. Vamos tentar chegar lá.
To get started, download the movie and import it into TilBuci. The file link is in this video's description. Open the dialogue scene. In this example movie, all elements have already been added to the scenes. To learn more about creating scenes and adding elements to them, check out our other tutorials. Note that this scene is composed of 4 keyframes to present the introductory animation we saw in the result. In the first keyframe, all elements are off-screen. In the second, the boat enters the scene. In the third, the graphic elements for the dialogue appear. And in the fourth, we only see the boat's position change. For this entrance animation to work, we need the scene, which always plays from the first keyframe, to loop back to the third one after the end. To achieve this, in the Scene Properties, go to the Keyframes tab and note that the Loop to Keyframe configuration is set to 3. Another thing to note is the animated background with the waves. To simplify our process, we created a short looping video with these images and added it to the scene. To check video playback in the editor interface, select the instance Access Current Instance in the right menu and click the play button. The final observation about this scene, for now, is the instances where the text and images of our dialogue will appear. Notice that we have 2 paragraph instances, one for the character's name and one for the text line, and a graphical instance to display the images during the conversation. Also note that we have instances with buttons to navigate through the dialogue and also to click when it ends. It's important to remember the names given to these instances for the dialogue setup that we'll see shortly. Now let's open the splash scene. Note that besides the background, it only has an image with the production name and 2 buttons, one for each supported language. There are several ways to work with multilingual content in TilBuci. In this video, we'll explore one that also helps manage large amounts of text, even if that's not the case in our example. In the Media left menu, click String Files. You'll see that 2 files with the JSON extension were uploaded to this movie. These files can contain large amounts of text that will only be loaded when used. You can import as many JSON files as needed into a movie. The JSON format is quite common. String files in TilBuci use a very simple form of this file type. They're just pairs associating names and text. Note that the difference between the 2 JSON files in our movie is the translated text, keeping the names identical. When you need to use the contents of one of these files, create the corresponding action. It's in the String Values Actions and Conditions group and named Load a String File. You only need to specify the name of the file to load, without the JSON extension. When you run this action, if another file exists in memory, it will be released. To learn more about actions, check out our other TilBuci tutorials. If you expand the created action, you will see that it considers two events. On success, which includes actions to be run as soon as the file is loaded, and on error, which can include actions to be executed in the event of a problem, such as a download failure or a corrupted or improperly formatted file. In actions like this one, which may take some time to execute due to file downloads, for example, it may be a good idea to show the user some visual feedback. TilBuci has a feature to simplify this. Access the movie's properties and go to the Animation and Interaction tab. There, you can set a file to be used as a visual warning that an action is taking place. When set, this image is displayed whenever scene files are loaded, but it can also be shown or hidden based on an action. Before creating the dialogue for our production, we need to register the characters of our story. To use the facial display feature or any other character expression during the conversation, we first need to create a media collection for each character containing all the images to be used. In our case, we have 3 characters. The first 2 have only one image, while the last one will use 2 expressions. To learn more about media collections, check out our other tutorials on creating them using TilBuci. Accessing the narrative menu on the left and clicking on Characters, we see the Character Configuration window. Here, when registering a character, we give it a name and can choose the media collection from which its images will be taken. Now, let's take a look at the dialogue settings. In the narrative left menu, click Dialogues. This is the dialogue configuration window in TilBuci. In the upper left area, we see the dialogue groups. Grouping conversations this way not only allows for better organization, but also optimizes the loading of this content during execution. Just like text files, you'll use actions to load these groups, allowing only the one currently in use to be loaded, which can be useful when your creation has many dialogues. When you select a group, you'll see all the conversations within it. You can add as many dialogues as you want to a group. They will all load together when the group loads. When a dialogue is selected, we see several settings in the right column. The first one is the name of the scene instances that will receive the content. Do you remember the instance names we set at the dialogue scene? In text line, we provide the name of the instance that will receive the conversation text. In character name, we enter the instance to show the character name. This is optional. Character graphic is the instance that will receive the character's image, also optional. In addition to these, we set the names of the instances that contain the previous, next, and end buttons so that TilBuci can hide or show them depending on the currently displayed dialogue line. Finally, we have the text lines for our dialogue. They consist of 4 elements. First, the content to be displayed. Here, we can either include the text itself or use what was loaded from a string file. To do this, simply indicate the name of the text to be used preceded by the $sign. Note that since we have 2 string files in this movie, one with content in English and the other in Portuguese, we only need to configure one dialogue that can be used in either language, simply loading the corresponding JSON file before displaying. Next, we can optionally indicate the character responsible for the speech. Their name will be displayed in the provided instance. Additionally, we can also set an image with that character's expression from the media collection defined for that character. Finally, we can include another optional element, an audio file to be played when the dialogue is displayed, which could include, for example, the character's speech. This sound is retrieved from the movie's standard audio files. We'll soon see how this audio can also be changed to suit the selected language. With that, we've finished checking the dialogue definitions. Let's return to the splash scene and see what happens when we click one of the 2 buttons, starting with Portuguese. Since we'll start the process by loading the text file, we begin with the action to display our loading graph. Next, we begin loading the Portuguese text file. If it loads successfully, we begin loading our dialog group called Chapter 5. In the event of an error, we simply display a debug message. When loading the dialog group, we first hide the loading graph, and then perform the magic that will allow not only the speech audio but also any other media file, such as images, to be replaced with the translated version. We tell TilBuci to change the file loading path, replacing the default English path with Portuguese. Let's check this further by accessing the Media Manager. In this manager, we see all the audio files available in our movie. To learn more about media managers, check out our other tutorials on using TilBuci. Notice that we have a folder called Default and another one called Portuguese. Also note that we have files with the same names within both. The action we just saw instructed TilBuci to replace the term default with Portuguese in the path of the files to be loaded. This applies to all media types. Note that we did the same in the Picture Manager. Returning to the Portuguese button click actions, we again see the action that replaces the word default with Portuguese in the file path. Immediately after this, we see that we simply load the dialog scene. Checking the English button actions, we see that the flow is similar, but notice that instead of assigning a replacement for the term default in the file paths, we simply remove any existing changes, and the media is loaded back from the original folders. Now, let's return to the dialog scene. Notice that we've placed the image with the production name in the lower left corner. Remember, since this image is located in a folder called Default, accessing this scene in Portuguese will replace it with the corresponding translated image. Remember the results we saw at the beginning of this video? There, we can see Waves sound playing in the background. There are several ways to do this in TilBuci. In our case, we used a soundtrack contraption. Contraptions are like shortcuts that simplify content creation in the software. To learn more about them, check out our other tutorials. To check out the soundtrack, go to the left-hand menu Contraptions and click Music. Notice that we added an audio file named Waves to our track. After that, just go to the Scene Properties and, at the Start Actions tab, add the action to play the audio. Now let's see how to start displaying the dialogue. We already have the text files and the Chapter 5 group loaded, so we just need to trigger the action to begin displaying it. In our scene, we have 2 introductory keyframes, and then those that will repeat while the conversation lines are displayed. The best time to start, then, is at the end of the second keyframe, when the third one begins displaying. Go to the keyframe's left menu and click Manage, click the second keyframe, and then the Set End Actions button. Notice that here we have a simple action that starts displaying the conversation. If no dialogue group has been loaded, or if one with the indicated name doesn't exist, this action is simply ignored. To navigate our conversation, we have 3 buttons. One for the next line, one for the previous one, and one for ending. The instance names of these buttons can be specified in the dialogue configuration. This will allow TilBuci to hide or show them depending on the line displayed. Even so, we still need to set, in the click event of these buttons, the navigation actions within the dialogue. They are located at the narrative group. The buttons can contain other actions if necessary. Note that on the ending button, we added an action to stop the sound of the waves and return to the previous scene. This concludes our explanation of TilBuci's dialogue creation functionality. This tool simplifies the production of content with multiple conversations among characters. There's much more to discover in TilBuci. To do so, visit tilbuci.com.br and also check out our other tutorials on creating with the software.